I wasn't supposed to hear it. The bedroom was dark, just a sliver of hallway light cutting across the wall. I had my back to her. I shut, breathing slow, the way I always did when I couldn't handle another late-night argument or weird silence. She thought I was out cold. Then her phone buzzed. Twice. And I heard her whisper, "I can't talk right now. He's in bed." Not Emery. Not my boyfriend. Just he. Like I was some obstacle. A misplaced object she had to tiptoe around. I don't know why that hurt more than the words themselves, maybe because of how ordinary she sounded. No panic. No guilt. Just routine. There was a long pause. The kind you don't notice unless you're wide awake and pretending not to be. I heard her exhale. Then the bedsheets shifted behind me and the glow of her phone lit up again. "I'll come tomorrow. Same place." I didn't move. I didn't breathe. I just stared into the darkness, stomach turning, heart weirdly still. Not racing. Not breaking. Just quiet. Like something inside had finally gone numb from trying too hard for too long. You know what's messed up? My first thought wasn't even about who she was texting. It was, what did I do wrong this time? Because for the last 6 months, I've been collecting excuses like receipts. She was tired. Work was crazy. Her mom needed help. Her best friend had a meltdown. The gym was running late classes. There was always something. And me? I became the guy who understood. Who forgave. Who held the door open when she left and made sure dinner was waiting in case she came back. That night, I didn't roll over. Didn't ask questions. Didn't cry. I just stared at the wall while she scrolled through someone else's messages, right next to the man who used to be everything to her. The soup didn't go cold that night. I did. The next morning, I still didn't say a word. I got up before she did, like I usually did, made coffee, like I always did, and stared out the kitchen window while the kettle hissed and whined. My hands were shaking, not from rage, but from something worse, resignation. You know that feeling when you finally accept something you've tried so hard not to believe? It's not a loud moment. It's quiet. It sinks into your bones like cold air. That's what it felt like. Like I'd been holding my breath for months and didn't even realize I was underwater. Tessa came into the kitchen like nothing happened. Hair tied up, lips still pink from last night's gloss, wearing the same hoodie she always wore on mornings she wanted to seem soft and familiar. I knew that move, make herself look cozy so I'd feel close to her again. Like we were still us. She kissed my cheek like she hadn't been texting another man inches from my spine hours earlier. I almost laughed, but I didn't. I just poured her a cup, handed it to her, and asked how she slept. My voice came out normal. Too normal. She didn't notice anything off. She never did when it came to me. I could have been on fire and she'd comment on how warm the room felt. That's when I noticed something else, her perfume. Not her usual one, either. It was sharper, not the soft vanilla scent she used to dab on her wrists when she was just around me. This one was bolder. Muskier. Something she used to say smelled like a nightclub bathroom. But now she wore it like it was her new skin. And then there was the bed. When I went back to grab my phone, I noticed the pillows. Hers was flipped over. Mine had a faint cologne scent. Not mine. I don't even wear cologne. I get migraines from most of them. But this one was unmistakable. I stood there, holding my phone, staring down at it like the sheets were shouting at me. She had someone here. Or maybe not here in the room, maybe just on her. On her clothes. Her hair. Her breath. I couldn't ask. Not yet. Not without proof. And not without unraveling whatever fragile thread was keeping me from completely falling apart. I needed to know more before I broke. So that night, I waited again. And again, she told me she was going to bed early. She said she was tired. She barely touched her dinner. Said she was drained from a hard week. But her phone? It buzzed 5 times in the hour before she slipped under the covers. She turned it face down on the nightstand and rolled away from me. I lay there in the dark, eyes wide open, thinking about the way she used to pull my hand to her chest when she fell asleep. How she used to tangle her legs with mine like she couldn't stand the space between us. Now I could have built a wall between us and she wouldn't have noticed. And still I didn't confront her. Why? Because I was scared. Not of her. Not of the truth. I was scared of what it would mean about me if I was right. Because if I was right, then the woman I loved had been slowly removing me from her life, not suddenly, not violently, but bit by bit, with silence and fake smiles and other people's cologne. And I had just stood there and let her. But something had shifted. My silence wasn't a sign of weakness anymore. It was preparation. Because the next day, I stopped being invisible. And the first thing I did was follow her. I used to think following someone you love would feel wrong, like you're violating some sacred trust, some invisible boundary between partners. But that morning, when she said she was going to her usual spin class at 7:30 a.m., something inside me clicked, not out of vengeance, but out of necessity. I couldn't live in limbo anymore. I needed to stop feeling insane for noticing all the little shifts, the lipstick shades that only appeared on errand days, the gym bags that somehow smelled like aftershave, the receipts in her coat pockets from restaurants we'd never been to together. So I waited. She left the house in her usual Lululemon gear, headphones in, not a care in the world. I didn't move until I heard her car pull out of the driveway. Then I grabbed my keys, heart hammering like I was the one doing something wrong, and followed at a distance. She didn't go to the gym. She didn't even turn in that direction. She drove across town, cutting through back roads like she'd done it 100 times before. I tailed her through 2 stoplights, half hoping she'd glance in the rearview mirror and catch me, so I wouldn't have to go through with it. But she never did. She was too comfortable, too practiced. She pulled into a quiet little neighborhood I'd never seen before. Rows of identical houses, all well-kept, nothing fancy. The kind of place where secrets were easy to hide behind trimmed hedges and cul-de-sacs. I watched as she parked in front of a tan house with dark shutters. No gym, no yoga mats, no neon-lit cycling studio. She got out and jogged up the front steps like she belonged there. No knock, no hesitation. The door opened within seconds, and a man, taller than me, darker hair, no shirt, stood there waiting with a smirk like he'd been expecting her. They didn't kiss, but the way she smiled at him, touched his arm, the way he let her in without a word, it said everything. I didn't take a photo. I didn't need to. That moment carved itself into my memory like stone. I didn't drive away right away. I just sat there, gripping the steering wheel like it was the only thing keeping me grounded. The betrayal wasn't loud or dramatic. It was horrifyingly casual. She had built this second life with the ease of someone ordering coffee, like it was just something she did in between errands. All the nights, she came home tired. All the times she smelled like someone else. All the little comments that didn't add up. It all pointed here, to this house, to this man, to this entire separate routine that didn't include me at all. And here's the part that still haunts me. I didn't get angry. I didn't scream or punch the dashboard or throw my phone out the window. I just felt empty, like I'd been hollowed out and left to watch my own life play out like a bad show. I waited 15 more minutes. Then I drove away slowly, every turn heavier than the last. When I got home, her coffee mug was still in the sink from the morning. Her blanket was still crumpled on the couch. Her book was still open to page 136 on the armrest, as if nothing had changed. But I had. I didn't say anything when she came home later that day. She smelled like eucalyptus and told me the class was brutal. I asked if she'd want soup for dinner. She smiled and said, "Sure, babe," kissed me on the cheek, and walked away humming. I made the soup anyway, but I didn't make it for her. That night, I poured it down the drain and made a plan, because I wasn't just going to wait anymore. That entire week, I became the most convincing version of myself I've ever played. I smiled. I nodded. I listened when she told me how burned out she felt. I even rubbed her shoulders when she complained about her boss, the same boss I now knew she hadn't actually seen in over a month. Everything she said became theater, and I was the silent audience, clapping politely from the shadows while she ad-libbed her betrayal one line at a time. Each morning, she left earlier than usual, claiming the gym was getting crowded or that she needed to get there before traffic kicked in. She wore the same fitted workout sets, the ones she only started buying after she met him, the man in the tan house. I never asked about him. I never asked anything, because now I knew the value of silence. If I interrupted her lies, she might change them, and I needed her to keep telling the same story. So I played dumb. I kissed her goodbye, told her I loved her, and each time she left, I scribbled more into my notebook. Yes, I kept a notebook. Not because I wanted revenge, I didn't even know what I wanted, but because if I didn't write it down, I was going to explode. I wrote down timestamps, exact phrases she used, the names she dropped, the scent she wore. When she said she was at Jen's house on Thursday, I checked Jen's Instagram. She was on a boat in Michigan with her fiancé. When Tessa said she was at a wellness retreat with zero phone access, I logged onto the security camera we'd forgotten was still connected to the porch light. She came home, alone, at midnight. I watched her walk past that camera like nothing in the world was wrong. The hardest part wasn't catching her. It was pretending I still cared about anything she said. There were moments, tiny, pitiful ones, when she'd put her head on my shoulder while we watched a movie, and I'd feel that old comfort try to crawl back in. And then I'd remember how she called me he in that whisper, like I was no more than a shadow in her real life. One night, I left the soup simmering on the stove while she showered, and I opened her laptop. I didn't want to, believe me, it felt like prying open something sacred. But I had to. I needed something real. Proof. I was tired of feeling like a ghost inside my own home. She hadn't logged out of her messaging app. The first message that popped up was from a contact saved as Logan. I stared at it for a long time. Then I clicked. The thread was alive. Hundreds of messages. Jokes, inside references, plans for next time, and my name, mentioned twice, both times like a punchline. He's so sweet. I almost feel bad sometimes. If he finds out, I'll just say we're coworkers. He's too soft to push it. I didn't realize I'd started crying until one of the tears hit the trackpad. Not sobbing. Just leaking, like my body had given up trying to contain everything. And they were right. I was soft. I was the guy who believed in patience, in loyalty, and fixing what's broken even when it slices you open. I never once cheated. Never once lied. I never even raised my voice. And maybe that's why she thought I'd never leave. But I had already left emotionally. I was just waiting for the right moment to let my body catch up. I closed the laptop, turned off the soup, and went to bed. She crawled in next to me 20 minutes later, kissed my shoulder, and said, "You're so quiet lately. Are you okay?" And I nodded. I said I was tired. But really, I was counting down. Because something was coming. And this time, it was going to be her who didn't see it coming. Saturday came, and I woke up before she did. I lay in bed staring at the ceiling while she slept beside me. One leg draped over my hip like we were still in love, like none of this was happening. Her breathing was steady, peaceful even, and I remember wondering how a person could sleep so soundly while living a double life. Or maybe that's just it. Maybe the lies weren't heavy for her. Maybe they made her feel lighter, freer, like she was escaping the weight of everything I thought we had. She stirred around 9:20 and groggily mumbled that she was going to grab coffee and then meet Jen for brunch. Jen, who was still out of town, by the way. I nodded and kissed her forehead. "Take your time," I told her. "I've got some errands to run too." She left without much fanfare, humming to herself as she closed the door. That was when I started getting things ready. I wasn't planning some grand revenge. No yelling, no confrontation, no throwing her stuff into the yard or texting the mystery man she was seeing. That's not who I am. I wasn't interested in turning pain into a performance. But I did want her to feel what I'd been feeling for months: confusion, silence, absence. So I set the stage. I cleaned the house top to bottom. I mean obsessively. I folded laundry she'd left scattered on the floor, organized the junk drawer she always complained about, vacuumed every inch of carpet. I even lit candles, the ones she used to say reminded her of fall, back when she still liked being home. I wanted everything to look perfect, familiar, safe. Then I made dinner. A full one. Her favorite: roasted butternut squash pasta with sage brown butter, Parmesan crisps, a bottle of Cabernet she thought was too expensive to open on a regular night. I set the table. I even pulled out cloth napkins we hadn't used since our 3rd anniversary. But there was one thing I didn't put on the table: a seat for me. Instead, I printed out one of the texts she sent him, the one that broke me the most. "He's sweet, but boring. He doesn't make me feel alive anymore." I folded it neatly and placed it where her napkin would have gone. Then I left. I walked out the front door with my car keys and a bag I had packed earlier. Just some clothes, my laptop, a toothbrush. I didn't slam the door. I didn't leave a dramatic note. I just drove away, heart thumping so hard I could barely keep my foot on the gas. I checked into a cheap but clean motel a few towns over, one with ugly green curtains and no questions asked at the front desk. And I waited. It took her 3 hours. 3 hours before my phone started blowing up. First it was one text, then 3 more, then a call, then another. Her messages came in rapid fire. "Where are you? What is this? Why would you leave? Come home. Please, Emery. This is ridiculous. Talk to me. Just talk to me." But I didn't respond. I read them all, over and over, each one more frantic than the last, until her tone shifted from confusion to panic. She didn't know what I knew. She just knew something was wrong. That for the first time, I wasn't where she left me. That was the moment I realized something terrifying. The only reason she was finally trying was because I wasn't there to try first. I turned off my phone, sat on the motel bed, lights off, staring at the ceiling fan spinning overhead. Somewhere out there, she was pacing the living room, maybe crying, maybe furious. But she was alone. And for the first time in months, so was I. And it felt peaceful. I wasn't trying to hurt her, but I knew she needed to feel what absence truly meant. Because you can't keep making excuses to someone who finally disappears. By morning, the sun was punching through the thin curtains like it was trying to force me back into reality. I sat up in that stiff motel bed with the crumpled sheets and cracked lampshade, and for a second, I forgot where I was. Not because I was disoriented, but because it felt better not to remember. That room didn't smell like her. It didn't carry the weight of our fake smiles or stale arguments. It was anonymous, blank, mercifully empty. It was mine. And oddly, that was the first time in over a year I didn't feel like a guest in my own life. When I finally turned my phone back on, it nearly froze from the flood of missed calls and messages. 43 unread texts, 9 voicemails, and 1 photo I didn't expect, a selfie of her crying, mascara smeared, in the kitchen I had scrubbed the day before. I stared at it for a long time, and all I could think was, you never cried when I begged you to stay home. You never cried when I asked if something was wrong and you told me I was imagining things. Now suddenly, the tears are real? Because I left? That's what it took? She'd driven to my parents' house, my work, even called my friend Quinn, the one she always said was too dramatic and should mind his own business. Funny how she suddenly needed the people she spent so long brushing off. She was casting a net, trying to reel me back before she had to look at the empty space where I used to stand. At noon, I got a text that froze me in place. Please, just come back so we can talk. I'll tell you everything. I messed up, Emery. I didn't mean for any of this to happen. It was the first time she'd admitted anything. No more excuses. No more, you're being paranoid. Just, I messed up. And while some part of me had always craved that confession, hearing it now didn't feel satisfying. It felt like a final nail in something I couldn't salvage even if I wanted to. So I didn't go back. Not yet. I let her sit in that silence the same way I had for months. I needed her to feel the difference between being ignored and being left. Late that night, just after midnight, I heard tires on gravel outside my motel window. I didn't move. I just sat in the dark, watching the faint headlights through the curtain slats. A few minutes later, someone knocked softly on the door. Once. Then again. I knew it was her. And I couldn't open it. I heard her whispering through the wood, her voice low and broken. Please, Emery. I didn't know you were going to leave. I didn't think you'd actually go. The desperation was real. But so was the betrayal. I stayed frozen, hand halfway to the doorknob, pulse pounding. My brain screamed to say something, anything. But what was left to say? That I knew about Logan? That I had watched her lie straight to my face while stroking my hand across the table? That I'd become so used to her excuses that hearing the truth now felt like another kind of manipulation? After a few minutes of silence, she left. Her engine coughed once in the distance and faded into the night. I sat on the edge of the bed until my legs went numb. This wasn't closure. This was the beginning of something else, something harder. Because now she knew the truth. But so did I. She didn't just lose me because of what she did. She lost me because she thought I'd never leave. The next morning, I found an envelope under the motel door. No knock, no message, just white paper with my name scrawled in blue ink I recognized immediately. I stared at it for a long time before picking it up. It smelled like her perfume, the older one, the one she wore when she used to bring me lunch at the workshop and kiss my neck when she thought no one was watching. The scent was a ghost now. Inside was a folded letter, written in her rushed, looping handwriting. No dramatic intro, no dear anyone, just words tumbling over themselves. I don't know how to explain this without making it worse, but I'll try. I never planned to hurt you. Logan wasn't supposed to be anything. We met at that networking mixer last fall, the one I said was boring and full of creeps. He wasn't creepy. He made me feel different. Not better, not more, just different. And I guess I chased that. Stupid, I know. But I was so numb and tired, and I didn't want to feel like a ghost in my own skin anymore. She went on for 4 pages. For pages of, I didn't mean to, I didn't know how to stop. I thought I could fix it before it went too far. She said she'd broken it off 2 weeks ago. Said she felt sick every time she looked me in the eye. She wrote that she was scared, not just of losing me, but of what it would mean if I stopped being there. If I actually stopped showing up. But here's the thing she didn't know. I already knew Logan had texted her yesterday. I saw the notification pop up while she was in the shower last week. His name, his dumb little fire emoji, and the words "still thinking about last time." That didn't sound like 2 weeks ago. That sounded like yesterday. That sounded like a lie tucked inside an apology wrapped in panic. That night, I drove back to the house. Not to stay, just to see it one last time. The porch lights were on. Every window was glowing like a trap. Her car was in the driveway. And when I stepped inside, it felt like walking into a museum of our relationship. Photos still framed on the walls, but now they looked staged. The blanket on the couch, the books on the shelf, the scent of cinnamon, it all felt forced. As if the house was trying too hard to pretend nothing was fractured. She was sitting at the kitchen table when I walked in, wearing one of my old flannels like she was hoping it would stir something in me. Her eyes were puffy, but she didn't stand up, just stared at me like I was both the problem and the solution. "I meant it," she said quietly, as if saying it softer would make it truer. "I ended it. I was scared to tell you. I thought if I buried it deep enough." "You already buried me." I cut in. My voice didn't shake, but I felt something inside me recoil at the sound of it. "You buried me every time you lied and smiled, and made me feel like I was crazy for noticing." She stood up then, came closer, too close, the letter clutched in her hand like a shield. "I didn't want to lose you, Emery," she said. "I just lost myself." And maybe she did, but so did I. And the difference was, I kept trying to find us again, while she tried to replace the search with someone else. "I'm not coming back," I said. "I didn't leave to make you beg. I left because you forgot how to miss me." She flinched, and for the first time, I saw a real fear in her eyes. Not guilt, not sadness. Fear. The kind that comes when you realize your safety net is gone, and you're finally looking down. I walked past her, grabbed the bag I had packed before I left, she hadn't touched it, and made my way to the door. Her last words to me that night were barely above a whisper. "You're really not coming back, are you?" I paused at the threshold. The house smelled like sage and garlic and something sweet. She had cooked. She had tried. But too late. "I already left," I said without turning around. "You're just now noticing." I closed the door behind me. Not slamming it. Not angry. Just done. 2 months have passed since I closed that door. And if you told me back then that I'd be writing this from a quiet porch in a rental cabin up north, with coffee in one hand and actual stillness in my chest, I wouldn't have believed you. I thought I'd fall apart without her. I thought leaving would wreck me. I thought I'd wake up every day haunted by the echo of her voice or the weight of her absence in bed. But instead, I slept. Not the kind of sleep where you're hiding from the world, but the kind where your body finally believes it's safe again. I never answered her follow-up messages. I didn't engage when she tried to send me playlists or photos from better days. I didn't reply when she asked if we could maybe talk like adults. And I definitely didn't look back when her mom tried to mediate with a heartfelt email about forgiveness and how everyone makes mistakes. Because I wasn't angry anymore. I wasn't stuck in a loop, rereading the lies or replaying the sound of her voice when she whispered to someone else while I pretended to sleep. I had something better. Peace. I went back to my workshop. Started a new project with a client who builds aquariums for therapy clinics. That's how I met Clara. She manages one of the facilities and spent an hour asking questions about glass types and coral configurations. She never once asked me about my past. She didn't try to get me to open up. She just listened, smiled, and asked if I'd ever designed an octopus tank. Clara wasn't loud or flirty or any of the things Tessa used to be in the beginning. But she was present. That's what stood out the most. She paid attention. Not in some big, dramatic way, but in small, quiet gestures. Like remembering how I take my coffee, or sending me pictures of weird fish sculptures she found in thrift stores because she thought they'd make me laugh. We haven't rushed anything. We've gone slow, deliberate, careful in all the best ways. And for the first time in a long time, I feel like I'm being seen without having to perform. As for Tessa, I don't hate her. I don't wish her pain. But I also don't miss her. I think some people come into your life to teach you how far you'll bend before you break, and what you do once you've broken. I bent for too long. I made space for someone who stopped showing up. I excused the inexcusable because I was terrified of starting over. But starting over saved me. Now, every time someone makes an excuse, I don't wait around hoping for better. I just walk away. Because the truth is, I didn't need to make her understand what she lost. I only needed to remember what I still had. My time. my sanity, and finally, myself.